Island biogeography is the study of successions on islands. So islands kind of are a special case scenario of how organisms arrive and what causes them to stay or survive on an island. So there's what's called the equilibrium model of island biogeography, which talks about stability of species richness on islands. So the idea is that the amount of species on an island, the species richness, tends to be stable because if there's two sort of competing features. There are new species arriving, immigration of new species to the island, and then at the same time, because islands have finite resources, there's an extinction rate that occurs. And so what they argued is that as more species arrive, it increases competition. So as you have increasing immigration, you will have also increasing competition. So you have new species arriving, and then that increases competition. And then that increase in competition will increase the extinction rate. So we see this number here as the number of species. And so as this number gets higher, as new species are arriving, you'll start to then see the extinction rate go up. And so the number of species that can stably exist on an island, therefore, are a balance between how many new species are arriving and the extinction rate. And so for this particular island, that balance point is somewhere around here. For a different island, that balance point might be different. So we're not saying that islands always have the same number of species. For a different island, that number might be over here instead, based on different features of the island. Okay, so to recap, islands have a stable number of species because there's a balancing act between newly arriving species from the mainland and competition increasing and causing extinction within the island itself. So this idea of immigration to an island and competition leading to extinction explains why we see certain relationships between species richness on islands and things like how big the islands are. So this is what's called the species area effect on islands. And it says the number of species should increase with increasing island size. So area, when we think about an island, what does the area directly influence as relates to island biogeography? It affects the resource amounts. So more area equals more resources. Therefore, slightly less competition, right? So the impact of competition and extinction is reduced when you have more resources. So again, that's why you would expect that the balance point, so going back to this graph, right, the balance point of extinction rates would be higher over this direction. So the line might look more like this for extinction rates, allowing for a higher number because there's more resources on the island. And in fact, they found this to be true. So this is some data from the Lesser Antilles Islands, where you can see there's an island chain with different sized islands. And they found that the bigger the island was, the more species richness there was. The island biogeography model also predicts a species distance effect on islands. And so what they proposed was that the number of species on islands decreases with increasing distance from the source pool. So the source pool is usually the mainland. So you have some continent and then you have some island. And so organisms are coming from the mainland and colonizing the island. And so their proposal was that it is harder for species to get to farther away islands, and so you would expect a lower number of new species on an island that's further away, and therefore a decreased amount of species richness. So again, thinking about the two factors of the island biogeography model, immigration or competition extinction rates, the distance has an effect on immigration rather than extinction rates. And so again, the closer it is to the mainland, the more species that can get there. The farther from the mainland, the less species can get there. And indeed, they found this to be true in Polynesia, where they looked at a series of islands, and the source pool being New Guinea in this case. And they saw less species the further away the island was from the mainland. So all of this, the species distance and species area effect, both support this idea that species richness on islands is this balance between immigration and extinction rates.